Hello and welcome to Just Jets, episode number 270. What's going on? Matt O'Leary alongside you at home for this lovely episode. One more before the NFL draft. Today I want to get into the Jets having a secret meeting with Tyler Warren, and then, of course, your voicemails. A very voicemail-heavy show on this episode as I want to get your thoughts heading into the NFL draft for the New York Jets. Some leftover thoughts from Aaron Rodgers' comments as well. We'll get that off your chest. But let's get started with a report from Adam Schefter that came out earlier this week that noted that the New York Jets recently and quietly brought Tyler Warren in for a visit with the New York Jets. So that one hasn't been as publicly talked about. Now, fans want Tyler Warren. A group of fans do. Some other fans want Armand Membou, and there's other choices as well. But those are by far the two names that we've talked about the most in the last few months for the New York Jets. And with Warren, there's been rumblings that they're very interested in him, but you haven't gotten like the tweet that, oh, the Jets are hosting Tyler Warren today at the facilities. That hasn't really been the case until Adam Schefter had this news earlier in the week. And he would go on to say that, quote, certain members of their organization are said to be enamored with the former Penn State star. Interesting. Okay, so potential mixed building, because if I had to guess, and you guys have seen my mocks, I mean, you guys are all really loyal viewers and listeners, so I appreciate it. But in my last predictive mock, I mocked Armand Membou. In my what I would do mock, I mocked Tyler Warren. And I know this is not what you should do in the podcast space or just in the content creation space. You're supposed to take a hard stance and be like, this is my guy and any other option sucks. But I don't feel that way. I would be happy with either Armand Membou or Tyler Warren. But I do just, the more I've watched of Tyler Warren, the more that I keep liking him as a prospect. And I don't really care that they passed up on a tight end in last year's draft class. And I don't want to hear the name Brock Bowers mentioned again. I don't want to do the whole offensive line versus tight end debate. And you can't possibly there's important context in each conversation. And if they do end up taking Armand, I go, great. They finished their offensive line. They're a young group with top 10 potential offensive line upside. But I'm not going to lie to you. I'm nervous if they do go offensive line, what they're going to do with their pass catchers, because you'd be asking someone on day 2 to come in and be an immediate impact guy. And yes, theoretically, you should be able to find guys in the second and third round who can contribute. The Jets just haven't had much luck doing that at either position in recent years. Looking at, the tight end spot, Jeremy Ruckert in the third round. And, I was really high on Ruckert coming out of Ohio State. I thought he was, actually underutilized by them as a pass catcher. But it just, for whatever reason, has not clicked for him yet in the NFL through 3 years. Before that, you took Jason Morrow in the second round in 2014. That pick clearly didn't work out. And the wide receiver list of day 2 guys that the Jets have taken over the years, whether it be this past year with Malachi Corley or Denzel Mims or Elijah Moore or Stephen Hill or Devin Smith. There's an unfortunate pattern here. Ardarius Stewart, another one in 2017, third round pick. They haven't had much luck doing it. And to be fair to Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji, they are not, Joe Douglas and Mike McCagnon and John Idzik and whoever else were making these picks. They are their own each individual guys. But the point being is that the further you go, the harder it is to fill those needs. And I view the tight end room and the wide receiver room as huge, massive needs. Same thing you can make the case for right tackle, but I'm nervous about the Jets' ability to find the right guy on day 2. And if you're taking Armand Membou, you just have to be right with whoever you take on day 2. If it's Mason Taylor or Elijah Arroyo or Gunnar Helm or Terrence Ferguson, whoever. Same for the wide receivers, right? Like, you gotta hit and you gotta find contributors, and I'm just nervous about it. That's all. So I don't want to spend too much time on the open today. As I said, there's a lot of voicemails that I want to get into. You guys want to share your thoughts on the NFL draft, and with that coming up this week, I think it's appropriate, obviously. So let's get it started with Max calling in from New Jersey with his draft thoughts.
Hi, this is Max calling in from New Jersey.
Hello,
and
Max.
we're going to talk about the draft. So here's the prospect that I do want and the prospect that I don't want. So first of all, before we start, Draft Day. Anyone excited for the NFL draft, I recommend Draft Day. Very good movie. Shows these GMs, they negotiate, and it's really interesting for NFL fans or anyone who's just interested in the NFL. We see how these general managers negotiate and pick players and stuff, and really the movie takes place like hours before the NFL draft, so we can see how like these GMs like call players and stuff. Very good movie. Let's talk about some prospects I want and a prospect I do not want to get. So first off, the prospect I do not want to get is Tech McMillan, and I think you're to disagree with me, Matt. There are a lot of positives about Tech McMillan that I really like. So he's a very good jump ball receiver, which I really like. He's a good contested catcher, good guy, 6'5", and I feel like he could fit this offense. I mean, I think he would be a good pick. The reason why I do not want Tech McMillan is just because of his character concerns. There are concerns, Tech McMillan doesn't like to watch film on his own. And I'm not saying, Tech McMillan needs to be a film junkie. In my opinion, not every player needs to be, a film junkie type of guy. My main concern with Tech McMillan is I don't know if his heart is really into it because I understand in college, these players, they don't have to watch film. If you're in a good program and stuff, you can watch as, a position group, but especially in the NFL, I do not know if his heart is in it. And Aaron Glenn's culture is about grit, about accountability. And I do not know if Tech McMillan's going to fit Aaron Glenn's culture if the character concerns are true. I wouldn't be mad if the Jets draft Tech number 7. I think there's a lot of good qualities. But if we draft Tech McMillan, I want to know if his character concerns are, true, not watching film. Because wide receiver is a very physical position. You need to watch film. You have to know the routes and stuff, what the corners are trying to do. So my main concern is just his character concerns and stuff. My prospect that I really like is Matthew Golden, and I feel like Matthew Golden. Reason why I want the Jets to get him is because he's a very speedy wide receiver, very good ball tracker. He's a very good slot receiver, fits any offense in the NFL. And what I really like about Matthew Golden is he's a very speedy wide receiver. And there's been proven history of speedy wide receivers being good in the NFL. For example, Tyreek Hill was a 4th-round pick in 2016. He was a very speedy wide receiver. He was actually a track guy, fun fact. And Matthew Golden is kind of like a Tyreek Hill type of prospect. And we do not have a speedy wide receiver on the Jets. We do not have someone who's speedy and can get separation. So I feel like Matthew Golden could be a really good fit for the New York Jets offense. What's your thought?
He gets cut there at the end, but I like Matthew Golden if the Jets are trading down, and we'll get into some of your guys' thoughts on trading back in the draft in a little bit later in the show. I'm not as down on Tech McMillan as you are. I just don't think the Jets are going to consider a wide receiver at 7. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's much more likely that they go with, if they're going offense, with either Warren or Membu. And on defense, I think if Mason Graham is there, that would be my bet for them to take a defensive player. I'm not really buying the Shamar Stewart and, whoever the flavor of the week is this week on the defense. That's not where my head's at for the Jets in the draft. You're not the only one, Max, who has had concerns with Tech McMillan. So it's definitely a possibility that maybe he's not in the right headspace. And we've seen that with players before where they come in and they're not mentally ready for the NFL, and it clearly impacts them. And that's really hard to evaluate. And the part that I agree with you with is that shit's not going to fly with Aaron Glenn. So they would have to know their answer if they were to actually draft him, if his head is in the right space. So I like him as a player, but we don't know that until he gets to the NFL, if his head's going to be in the right space. I don't dislike Golden, but that would be a trade back scenario for me. Speaking of trade back scenarios, John has one that he wants to talk about, a Jets draft scenario.
Hey, Matt, this is Jonathan from South Carolina. My question of the day is, let's assume we're all right and the draft falls exactly how we think it's going to fall, like Cam Ward, and then, take your pick of Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter for the Browns, and then the Giants pick up whoever the Browns didn't pick up, and then you got, Will Campbell, Mason Graham, Ashton Jeanty. And so Shedeur Sanders is still on the board at 7. Now, if the Steelers call to come up and get him, what would that trade package look like?
Okay.
I'm team stick and pick Tyler Warren. I think Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland are, like Tyler Warren's the better prospect, and you got Colston Loveland, and then there's everybody else after that, right? I think there's just a big difference between tight end and offensive tackle this year. I think you're much better off finding an offensive tackle on day 2 with either your second or third round pick and still getting a starting caliber player compared to if you're picking your tight end in that round. Of course they'll play some, but it's probably not that starting caliber you want, such as the Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland. But if the Steelers call up to trade, would you be interested in, of course, getting picks for this year, picks for next year? I don't know what the package would look like. But what if we demanded Pat Freiermuth as part of that trade package? Is that something the Steelers would do? I mean, obviously, if they like Shedeur Sanders enough and quarterback's a premium position, of course you got to do it, right? But if we demand Pat Freiermuth, we could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I don't know how it would work out with our cap space and his contract and whatnot, but he's still in his mid-20s. He's a very good tight end in this league. And then at pick, we would definitely get pick 21 in return for this year. And Tyler Warren's not going to be there. Now, Colston Loveland will probably still be there, but you already got your tight end. Armand Membu won't be there at 21, but there's still, there's probably going to still be some cream of the crop tackles at pick 21. They might not be dedicated right tackles, but maybe Kelvin Banks is still there, Josh Simmons, Donovan Jackson, Josh Connerly. I think that'd be a little bit rich at 21, but so yeah, that's just my question of the day is if the Steelers call and we're able to demand Pat Freiermuth be a part of the trade package, is that something that you would pull the trigger on to take care of your tight end position as well as recoup picks for this year and next year, assuming that, you're going to have to trade up to go get your guy next year for long term?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question because the Jets very well could be in the boat of trying to find a quarterback in the 2026 draft. And my initial thought before we got even to Pat Freiermuth was the Steelers don't have a second round pick this year. So if you're doing this trade, I think it's likely 8 for 21, their third round pick, as well as next year's first round pick. Going from 21 to 8's a long way. But let's say it's, you move back to 21, you get Pat Freiermuth and next year's first round pick. I think that's interesting. He's got 3 more years left on his contract, 4 more years, left on his contract. He did sign a extension in 2024. And it was a 4-year contract extension, which kicks in 2025. His cap number, if he wasn't traded from the Steelers, would be 12-9, 11-2, 12-1, and 10-5, which is fair. His base salaries are 10-8, 7-6, 8-5, 6-9, and that would take him from his age 27 to age 30 season. I think he fits the kind of tight end that the Jets would be looking for, and so I'll do it all. Like, he's a pass catcher, and he could also block. He's not just kind of one-sided tight end. And from there, the names that you mentioned, like, if that's the plan, you pick up your tight end, you get maybe, I like Josh Connerly as the tackle options in that range. I know he said maybe a little rich for him. I like Connerly. I think he's going in the first round. So then you could take Connerly in the first round. You have tight end figured out. You still have your second and third round picks. So maybe you feel you can take a defensive player on day 2 and try to find your receiver also. It's not a bad thought. It's an outside the box way to fill a need. We talked about the potential idea of trading for Dallas Goedert to fill that role. Good thought. He's under contract. He's going to be through his mid-20s. Not crazy expensive. If they'd be willing to do it, if they really like Shedeur, I think you have to think about it. Let's go to Henry calling in from Long Island.
Good morning, Mr. O'Leary.
How are you,
this
sir?
This is Henry from Valley Stream, Long Island. Just listening to your Kyle McCord assessment. I loved it. Thank you very much. Aaron Glenn, I believe, is a disciple of Bill Parcells, and if I recall correctly, Parcells would say that you draft a quarterback every year. So, I would also like to draft a quarterback this year. Maybe not one, maybe not two. As far as I'm concerned, round 3 and thereafter is open season for a quarterback. I would love the kid from Alabama whose name escapes me now, Howard from Ohio State, or Kyle McCord. Okay. There you are, sir. I'll leave it up to Peter from the beautiful Hudson Valley to wrap it up for you. Thank you, sir.
I appreciate it. Thanks for getting in on the fun, Henry. If the Jets are to go quarterback, so the Alabama quarterback, Jalen Milroe, I think is going to be a first or second round pick. And I definitely don't want to spend that on a quarterback this year. I don't think they're taking one, but if they were to take one, my preference would be Will Howard. I thought he looked good in the college playoff. I think he's, mobile enough. He doesn't have a huge arm, but can be a game manager type. And who knows, maybe there's some untapped potential there. Those are very popular choices for fans who do want to take a quarterback. And again, that's not necessarily my preference. I don't think the Jets have to come out of this class with a quarterback, but we don't know how they feel about Jordan Travis. Maybe they don't have any faith in him after the injuries, and they're going to be like, hey, we didn't draft him, and we'll rather take our own developmental guy. It's possible. I don't think you can rule it out. I'm not saying I personally would just throw Jordan Travis to the side, but you never know with new regimes. They don't have anything attaching themselves to him as their pick because they didn't make the pick. It was Joe Douglas who did it. So that's an interesting call out from you. I wouldn't take one in the first or second round, so I think that takes Milroe out of it. And Howard and McCord are two very popular choices. I would prefer Howard, but I understand why some people do like Kyle McCord. Let's go to Jonathan up next in Vegas, wants to talk some Aaron Glenn.
Hello, this is Jonathan from Las Vegas, Nevada. I was calling because I just finished watching the clip where Aaron Rodgers was talking about his meeting with our head coach and our general manager. In all honesty, it makes me really respect Aaron Glenn and really excited for who he is as a coach. The conversation when he goes in and he's with the office with Aaron Glenn and the general manager reminds me of a scene from the Draft Day movie where the general manager is talking to the star prospect quarterback and asks him, do you love football? Or it was a question similar to that. He didn't give him a great answer, so he didn't want to draft him. And I think that's similar to what happened right now. Aaron Rodgers gave Aaron Glenn a shitty answer, so Aaron Glenn told him to kick rocks. I really love that decision. That's what it looks like to me from the outside looking in. I wanted to see what you thought about that, and go Jets.
Yeah, that's where my head went to also. And I know from Rodgers' side, I didn't want to fly across the country for a quick meeting. But one, as I stated on that day, there likely would have been a problem if it was only a phone call. And two, I don't know, he gave a wishy-washy answer. And it's either you're in or you're not, dude. Do you want to play this year? Absolutely, yes. I want to play this year. I want to be a part of this team. Maybe the meeting goes differently if that's how he answers it. I'm not saying he would go all the way to, I want to stay, but maybe the conversation goes differently. But he goes, yeah, I'm interested. I'll consider playing. And then we get to the week of the draft, and we still don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to play this year. So imagine if that's the boat the Jets were in, where it was instead of doing this big preview of, who the Jets going to take, what position we're going, is their quarterback playing or not this year? And I don't blame Aaron Glenn for how he handled that at all. And I get it. The Rodgers fanboys were coming after me and, you'll just defend anything that the Jets do, which is insane. If you've ever listened to anything that I've ever said on any of my platforms, I stay true to, if I think the Jets do something good, I will tell you they did this good and here's why. If the Jets do something that I think is stupid, I will go, this is dumb, here's why. That's not one of those instances. This is not one of those instances. I think the Jets are fine by this. I think Rodgers came out looking worse after those comments. But, if you listen to Colin Cowherd, maybe your opinion's a little bit differently. Let's go to Devin in Nevada up next. So a couple of Nevadas back to back.
What's up, Matt? Devin from Nevada calling in here.
First time calling in this off season. So yesterday I watched pretty much that same clip that everybody has seen of Aaron Rodgers on Pat McAfee, and I just saw like the 15-second or 20-second clip or whatever, because thankfully I'm not forced to care about Aaron Rodgers and what he does anymore.
That's right.
And don't get me wrong, man, I like Rodgers, but that was an awful interview for him, not for Aaron Glenn. That was a terrible look for Rodgers. I think it's funny how he gets up there and he says, "Oh, I don't care about the narrative." And it's like, bro, you've been doing a talk show, a podcast, while in the midst of your professional career. That's very distracting to everybody, by the way, to get out your narrative for like 3 years. Yeah, you do care about the narrative, and that's okay. Nobody's, you got a big ego. You're one of the best quarterbacks of all time. I understand. But, you know what I mean? It's like, man, it's crazy, too, to see Jets fans still divided on this.
I know.
And it's like, dude, we all wanted Rodgers. We all wanted it. It did not work out. It was not meant to be. It just wasn't in the cards.
Yep.
All right? A new regime comes in, owes Rodgers absolutely nothing, okay? He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Yeah, great. Not even for this franchise. He's done nothing for this franchise. And not his fault, a lot of just bad stuff happened. But, hey, if anything, that just tells us that it just wasn't meant to be, man. As much as we all wanted to make it work, it was just a square peg in a circle hole, or however that goes, man. But, you know what I mean? So it's crazy to see people still divided, saying that Aaron Glenn was stupid or, cocky or he's a clown. And it's like, bro, he asked Rodgers if he wanted to play football, and Rodgers is damn near saying, maybe. It's like, and then also, too, it's a reason why it's April 18th, and Rodgers isn't signed to any team, not just the Jets. So if that's the case, then how come people aren't saying, oh, wow, the Steelers are so stupid for not getting Rodgers, or, oh, wow, it's like,
dude,
you get
thank
what I'm
you.
saying, man. Listen, Rodgers is not a part of this football team anymore. If you are a Jets fan, move on. Get up. Wake up. Brush your teeth. Eat breakfast. Touch grass. You know what I mean? Like, y'all can't cry about it forever. I'm excited about this new young Justin Fields. I'm honestly excited about, our coaching staff, our GM, and you know why? Because why not? It's like, so many people love to be mad about something or sad about something. It's like, bro, that season hasn't even started yet. And I know this is one season where we're not off-season champs yet, but there's still time, my friend. So, hey, man.
Oh, he gets cut off at the end, but that was a perfect call from Devin. Oh, my God. I could not have said it any better myself. Shout out to you, man. What a hell of a call from you. Why is no one saying, oh, the Steelers are dumb for not bringing in Rodgers, or the Giants, or, insert any team here. Oh, the Rams didn't move on from Matthew Stafford to bring in Aaron Rodgers. No, but the Jets are the dumb ones. And it's when he called in April 18th, I'm recording this on April 22nd. It's going to come out April 23rd, and we're still likely not going to know where Aaron Rodgers is playing football or if he's playing football in 2024. Let it go. It's okay. They're taking a swing on a guy in Justin Fields right now, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you today in April that, oh, yeah, he's going to be the long-term answer. But you know what? At least he's young and has some upside. He'll run around. It'll be a fun watch. They're not going to, he's not going to throw a pass that's incomplete and be screaming at a wide receiver, and everyone will be pouting on the sidelines. Like, that's not how this is going to go in year one with Justin Fields. And if it doesn't work out with Fields, all right, fine. You take your quarterback next year, and he's a reasonably priced backup option for you next year, if that's the case. And you could go, you know what? Fields isn't our long-term guy, but what if we do something different for a change? Instead of throwing our rookie quarterback into the fire, we'll have Fields start the first 8 games of the year. And look at the numbers. Fields' efficiency was very similar to the kind of production that Aaron Rodgers put up. I know the passing touchdown numbers aren't there and the passing yards aren't there, but some of those stats are kind of inflated at the end too. So whatever, he's gone. He's not here anymore. Let that shit go. Thank you, Devin. Let's go to Jake from Jersey.
Hey, what's up, man? Jake from Jersey. Just wanted to say with this whole Aaron Rodgers thing that came out, it's just so ridiculous. One, I'm so happy we don't have to deal with this anymore. Like, I was a big Rodgers guy, like, just career-wise. Like,
Sure.
who's not a fan of him, really? But, I mean, like, incredible career. Comes here, doesn't work out, that's fine. You know, he had good moments last year. I wouldn't say he was an elite quarterback last year by any means. But I just, the way he tried to throw the Jets and Aaron Glenn, like, under the bus here in the McAfee, like, little interview thing, it's just stupid. Like, you never want to react to it. It's just wild. When everyone said last year or the year before that, like, you got to make it all about him, the offseason all about him, blah, blah, blah. You know, I kind of talked myself out of that, try to just be blinded by, like, oh, my God, we have Aaron Rodgers now, But now it's like, it really does. Like, it's crazy. It's kind of like a diva like that. Like, just has to, I don't know, like, even with the pick my brain thing, when he's like, I don't know why Aaron Glenn wouldn't want to pick my brain or whatever. Like, I get it. Like, you have some knowledge, but, I mean, he was also a former player. Like, there's plenty of coaches on the staff. I don't know, man. It just rubbed me the wrong way because, like, I didn't see Rodgers as, like, a bad guy, but I guess, that just kind of pushed me over with him. So, happy he's not on the Jets anymore, to be honest. And I'm happy that the coaching staff is going their own direction. Anyone that I feel like that's mad that they had him fly out, I feel like Aaron Glenn wanted him to fly there to meet him in person and see how committed he truly was. Like, He's like, yeah, I'm interested in playing. Okay, well, to me, that doesn't say that you're fully committed. Why would anybody be interested in that, especially with the year that you had? Like, I don't know. It's just all stupid, but happy that this is probably the last thing we'll have to deal with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. So, looking forward to the draft, see what happens. Hopefully, Tyler Warren. Let's go Jets.
Thank you, man. It's so true, right? Isn't this stuff so true? And, we were probably a little blinded because of how desperate the Jets were to find a quarterback that were willing to put up with this stuff. But then just after this last year, and you win 5, team won 5 games. They weren't a very good football team. And it's like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. And he gave a wishy-washy answer to Aaron Glenn when he said, oh, do you want to play? I might want to play football next year. Great. It's not a real answer, Aaron. We're going to go in a different direction. And that's okay. Caden wants to talk about how there's no leaks anymore from the New York Jets.
O'Leary, greetings to you, good sir.
What's up,
man?
This
is Kane Smith calling in from upstate New York on Monday the 21st. Hope you're doing well and hope you had a happy Easter and were able to enjoy it, have some good food. Just calling in a couple days, 3 days now before the draft. Crazy how quick it came. But just some thoughts overall of mine, just kind of what I'm looking for, and then just, analyzing the rumors that we do here. And to quickly touch on one thing, the fact that we haven't been having any leaked out of the building besides just who is visiting has been incredible. What Movie and Glenn have done to plug the leaks has been awesome, and it's been well needed. It's ridiculous the change from like Douglas and Sala. So that's great. But then, so just to the picks overall, I've called in on about this before, and it might be an unpopular opinion. I get the idea for drafting Armand Membo, being able to shore up the offensive line then and basically have it set for years. I totally get that. I get the allure of that. I just am so tired of drafting offensive linemen in the first round. I'm just not interested in that case. I know why we should, but I really just want Tyler Warren. He's just my guy. He can do everything. He can block. He can run. He can throw. Catch, obviously. He's the all-around guy. He did everything at Penn State.
Yep.
It's just hard for me to stomach them. And then we've just been hearing a lot of other rumors lately. Kind of now Ted McMillan has fallen off as a rumor, even though I still would not mind that. If with the rumors going around, if we draft Ashton Genty, I will riot. I will be so pissed. We have Brees, Braylon, and Isaiah Davis. We do not need Genty. I don't care how good of a player is. Do not draft Genty. Great player. Do not need him, though. And then the other one that I think we've been hearing a lot about, and also Mason Graham, too, as a possibility, is recently Jahdae Barron, the cornerback from Texas. I don't see the positional value there because I think he's smaller. He almost seems a bit more fit to play the nickel, which I'm not going to draft kind of a nickel outside hybrid corner at 7. He's not a safety particularly, and we just don't have the need. We have Sauce, obviously. MC2 in the slot, and then even though Brandon Stevens was a bit of a confusing signing because he wasn't the best last year, he's going to be the outside corner. So
Correct.
I'm not big on that. The one player, though, that I do want to talk about, not going to be popular because of the fact that the safety value is so undervalued, but Malachi Starks, man, I love that kid. He is so good. Teams need to put aside the prejudice of like, oh, safety isn't important now. If you have a player that's good enough in your range, you should take him, whether the position is important or not, because he could still be a game-changing player. And I think Malachi Starks.
He gets cut off there at the end. Interesting thought on Malachi Starks. I don't think that's the route that the Jets would go, but we can't ignore how big of a need safety is. You know, you have Andre Sisco on a one-year deal. Tony Adams isn't a starter, and that's about it. They could use a strong safety. So safety is a bigger need than I think some people are realizing, which is a good call out from our guy Caden. And I love the point that he made from there not being any leaks either in the building. Which is a really big change from the last regime, I would say. So I get your points on Warren too. I'm mostly there with you. I wouldn't be upset with Membu. I know you said you can stomach it. Maybe that was some of it was hyperbolic, but I would get it if they took Membu. I go, yeah, I get that. And if I'm making my prediction today, that's who I think the Jets end up picking. And we'll react to all that stuff next week, man. Well, all right, let's get to Peter from the beautiful Hudson Valley.
Hey, Matt. Peter calling in from the beautiful Hudson Valley on this Monday evening. Just watched you and Jake hash it out with the draft preview. Good stuff there.
Thank you.
Certainly good to hear that a lot of you guys are on the same page as to what should happen for the Jets. We'll hopefully not have any wild, crazy stuff going on like you guys had talked about there, where we get a Shamar Stewart in round one, even the latest name, Jahdae Barron.
Jahdae Barron, baby.
He's picked later on in the draft. But being as it is draft week, Christmas time for Jets fans, time to get some picks in. One last mock draft before Thursday. So
let's hear
this particular one, I liked what you had done last week and traded down in the second round. So I did the same thing. Using PFN, actually, the Cardinals wanted to come up in the second round, and we back to 47, but also picked up 115.
Okay.
So here's what happens. Number 7, of course, Tyler Warren, tight end, Penn State. He was there. You might as well take a playmaker and get it over with. At 47, surprisingly there, Josh Connolly, the offensive tackle out of Oregon.
Nice.
So
Good
at
pick.
least we filled that need right off the bat. If he wasn't there, I'm sure Ursery was. So one way or the other, you get yourself a good offensive tackle to plug in on the right side. 73, Kevin Winston Jr., safety out of Penn State. Need that strong safety need. 110, Donta Thornton, the wide receiver out of Tennessee, because he gives you size and speed. 115, Miles Frazier, the guard slash tackle out of LSU, so you get some depth on the line. 145, I don't know if I'm going to butcher this name, but J.J. Pegues, the defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. So big body, run-stuffing guy. 162, Jared Ivey, the edge out of Ole Miss. So we get someone else to plug into the rotation there. 186, and again, this might be too late. Again, PFM's rankings are different, but at 186, Jackson Hall is the tight end at Georgia Tech, so we get a blocking tight end. And the very last pick, 207, I took Upton Stout, the cornerback slash safety out of Western Kentucky.
Cool.
I've seen him in different rankings as both a safety and a corner, so would probably be that kind of guy that could kind of go back and forth on the defense and kind of plug in, based on needs and, start to learn both ends of things, maybe be a special teams contributor like an Isaiah Oliver as well. So let me know your thoughts on that. That's the mock draft I came up with for this week. I think it fills a lot of needs. I think the top 4 picks should all be starters, and then the rest provide good depth. I think no matter what this week, I think that's the route the Jets should go on. The first 4 picks should be starters, and the rest should provide depth. And as always, go Jets.
There you go. I like the mock draft. I think that fills out a lot of needs for the New York Jets. I like the trade down and still getting a really good tackle in the second round. If I were to give a criticism of it, and I think I'm mostly fine with it. I think it's a little early for Donta Thornton, who you mentioned at wide receiver. But again, that's all preference at that point, right? And then I think Upton Stout might end up playing nickel in the NFL, and they wouldn't need him for that. But it's interesting that he's versatile. So it depends on how they view him at the next level. But again, a mock draft that just bangs out a bunch of needs. I've enjoyed your mocks. I think this is a strong mock draft, Peter. And if, especially in the top 2 rounds, if you come away with Connerly in the 2nd round and Tyler Warren in the 1st round, I would be a very, very happy camper the first couple nights of the draft. We'll close with our guy PG from Long Island.
Hello, Matt O'Leary. PG from Long Island here. Thank you for taking my call, and thank you for the shout-out last week.
You're welcome.
I really did have a great time at the draft party last year.
It was fun.
Honestly, I was looking forward to it this year, but I understand logistically that's, something like that's tough to pull off, especially when your cohorts are coming in from New Jersey. So I'll miss it this year, but I look forward to it next time that it happens, whenever that is, and be happy to come in and say hello again. So the draft obviously is this Thursday. I want to talk about after the draft. 24 hours after the draft, you can sign free agents. Doesn't matter what you sign them for. It does not affect the compensatory pick formula. So right now, and by the way, there are some interesting free agents still left. There's a couple of receivers out there. There's a couple of tackles out there. Wills from Cleveland, former high pick. So depending on what the Jets do, they could be in the market to grab a couple of these free agents. Again, it will not affect the compensatory pick formula. And from what I understand, the Jets now have 3 picks for next year, a 4th round and 2 7th rounders, more than they usually have. And my question is, do you think this is something Muji kind of plans, that it's something we're going to see from him in the future, or is it just something that happened because of how the Jets had some free agents they're going to let go, and at the same time their free agent strategy was just picking, low cost, high upside guys? So be interested to see. I think it's kind of a combination. Love to get your thoughts there. Last thing I want to say is, listen, I was never, always thought this player is a great player. Net is off the field antics never bothered me. When it became a Jet, I rooted for him. But I think it's pretty safe to say now that Aaron Rodgers is a douchebag. He's a complete douchebag. And that's really the last word I'm going to say on him.
That's pretty candid, right?
But now, Leary, love to get your thoughts on the Muji strategy. Is it a strategy, or is it just something that fell into place for us? And as always, Matt O'Leary, go Jets.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about Aaron Rodgers anymore after this, which is, I think, a welcome thing for us Jet fans. I wish we were doing a draft party too this year. It just wasn't going to work out. I'm not saying we're never going to do one again. I'm sure we'll do stuff again down the line. It just wasn't going to work for this year. We're still streaming, so come hang out with us on Thursday night over on Talking Jets. I would hope that they are active after the draft in signing some veterans. Not that they're going to spend crazy money then after the draft, but can they find someone who could be an edge 3? Can they maybe find a veteran safety to add to the room? Like little things like that. And I think they did operate this free agency period with the compensatory pick process in mind, which is something that they normally don't do. They're often very big spenders in free agency, and this year was very, very different. And, still some work to be done to this roster, and they should be able to do that through the NFL draft coming in just a couple days. So I'm really excited for that. Guys, thank you so much for another episode here of Just Jets. Again, make sure to tune in for our draft coverage live for all 3 days on Talking Jets. I'm Matt O'Leary. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you next time.